Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First, I think this session is a double barrel session, and we're going to try our best, knowing that a lot of us have had a long day, and try to make the best out of it. Setting the tone for solution-driven conversation. This is going to be, we are going to be handling two topics, and the lead panel discussant has already been introduced. So I'm just going to invite my brother, Dike Chukwumerije, to come and unpack what he has for us. I think you can give him a clap offering.
It's been a long day, so we'll try and keep it short and sweet. I'm talking about social healing, values, reorientation, and social cohesion. I've been listening all day to different lectures, different aspects of what is required to develop the Southeast. But I want to start by telling you a very short story. I live in Abuja, and I went to the post office to do something. And as I was standing there, I noticed two men, two northerners, from the way they were dressed and their accents, you knew they were northerners. They were pointing at me and saying something. So it was obvious that maybe they knew me from somewhere. So one of them said, "Is that not that poet?" And the other one said, "Yes, now I know him. Now Ojukwu brother." Ojukwu brother. That is how we are seen. All of us are a continuation of Odumegwu Ojukwu. On another occasion, I was in Maiduguri doing a civic engagement with young people. I like to engage with young people. And a young Kanuri man in the middle of my lecture raised his hand. And I said, "What is it?" This man could not have been more than 35 years old. And he said, "Sir, please, the only thing I want to know is this. January 15, was it an Igbo coup?" And hearing this young man that was born long after the end of the Civil War ask me this question with seriousness made me realize that beneath all the conversations we have, there is something that is not said about the way we are seen as Ndi Igbo. But it's not just the way that we are seen. There is also a way that we see others. Because when I put it on social media, that I was taking my production. I have a production, I travel around the country with it. I was taking my production to Gombe. My phone was bombarded by messages from my Umunna. They said, "Gombe. Can you get by him?" When I took some of these young creatives with me and we got to Maiduguri, they said that they are shocked when they saw cars on the road. They said, we are shocked. We thought that it was only cows that Fulani people drive. We don't know they drive cars too. And what all these things make me realize is that there are stereotypes, biases that sit beneath all our polite conversation about roads and bridges and borehole and keke napep. There are biases that sit beneath it. Everybody around the table is looking at themselves with some suspicion. And so for me, our bottleneck problem as Nigerians, our bottleneck problem, I didn't say our only problem, our bottleneck problem as Nigerians is bias, is our mindset, is our perception of one another. The fact that because I come from the southeast, I am Ojukwu brother. And because you come from the north or you come from the west, I also have stereotypes about you. And those stereotypes consistently undermine every effort we make to move forward as a people. But it's even worse for us in the Igbo. It's not just that we are looked at a certain way and we look at people a certain way. It is also the fact that these biases and stereotypes have affected the way we as a people present. My parents met in the Biafran War. I don't even know if I would be here if not for the Biafran War. Because my mother and father met in the war. While their mates were fighting, they were falling in love. So I don't know if I'll be here without the war. And so, after the war, my father was one of those Igbo people who immediately the war finished, dropped the gun, or for him, the microphone, because he was a propagandist, and went back to Lagos and began to build again and build from the scratch up. He probably has the distinction. In Biafra, he was the director of propaganda. He came to Nigeria and became the Minister of Information. I don't know if there's anybody else that did that. Built from the ground up. Because after the war, regardless of what the system was saying about him, he just focused on making progress. He didn't teach me to hate Yoruba people. He didn't teach me to hate Hausa people. He just got on with his life. Because, Onyekwe, you can't stop somebody that is determined to move in life. It doesn't matter what you put in their way. And it was that can-do spirit that pulled Ndi Igbo back after the war, brought them to where they are today. But these biases and bigotry that have continued to fester within our worldview has started corroding that can-do spirit of Ndi Igbo and replacing it with an acute victim mentality. I know you will not clap for that one, but it's okay. Because what a victim mentality does is that it takes agency out of your hand and puts it in the hand of your enemy. That's all it does. Very soon, if we continue like this, Ndi Igbo will give birth to children and call them Ndi Hausakwe, Ndi Yorubakwe. That's where we are going. Because of this acute victim mentality. And that is why it is important that as a people, we begin to address the traumatic aspects of our history. That's why it's important for us. We begin to address those traumatic aspects of our history. I don't know, I had slides, but as a poet, sometimes you get carried away and just be talking what you're not supposed to talk. Do I still have those slides? I'm sorry, I went completely off. I was looking for my slides, I didn't see it, so I said, let me just perform. Let me just perform for them. If the slides it's not coming, no problem. Okay, I can't control it from here. All right, skip forward to the next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Just keep going. It's important, go back, that as Ndi Igbo, we begin to address some of the most traumatic aspects of our history. And I listed 3 critical ones. I went to school here in Nigeria, born and bred, primary school, secondary school, university, everything here. I have never sat in any classroom where I was taught any of these things. And yet these 3 things are constantly defining the way we as Nigerians treat each other. And yet we never talk about them. Never. And in the silence, that culture of silence we created over these things, other people took over the narrative. These things need to be taught in schools. We don't have to wait for federal government to do it. We can redesign our curriculum in the Southeast to make sure that these things are talked about, so that our children can develop a comprehensive understanding of history and themselves. Let's not talk in parables anymore. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. When we choose to talk about our history and break that culture of silence, there are 5 principles that we must adhere to so that we can have healthy but honest conversations. We are not trying to restart the Biafran War. We are not trying to use our present or the future of our children to try and avenge the wrongs of the past. But if we don't understand the past correctly, we cannot escape it. So to have these healthy conversations, there are 5 principles we must adhere to, and I'll run through them very quickly. Objectivity. As Ndi Igbo, we all have our own version of history. But there are other versions of history. Like I told you, I was born in a Biafran household. The Biafran flag was on my father's desk as a child. I grew up with one version of history. But when I went out there, I began to encounter other versions of history. And if we are to heal as a people and as a society, we must bring together all the versions of history in one place so that our children can learn objectively what happened. Not teaching history with the aim of defending any side, just what happened. Number 1, objectivity. Number 2, next slide, validation. Everybody has a pain point. Everybody has something that is paining them. It is not only us. Everybody has something that is paining them about the past. When that man called me Ojukwu brother, and it was not a friendly greeting, there was a grievance in his heart. There was something he felt that I had done to him because in his mind, I was a representation of Ndibo. Number two, we have to acknowledge that everybody has a pain point. There is not only one victim, there are multiple victims. Number three, next slide, empathy. We have to see the story through the eyes of the other person. You are not in a position to judge anybody until you understand them. And I tell you this, you may disagree with somebody vehemently, but the moment you understand them, you can no longer hate them. Number four, learn. We study history to learn so that it never repeats itself. We don't study history to condemn. We study history to learn so that we can move past it. And number five, forgiveness and release. Let history be history. These are 5 principles we must apply when we begin to study our history honestly. Next slide. The slides are not moving. When we begin to learn about our history honestly as Ndibo and as Nigerians, putting all the perspectives on the table, there are 2 things that will develop, 2 emotions, 2 values that will develop. Next slide. Number 1, respect. And number 2, empathy. If you begin to learn history comprehensively, not just your side, everybody's side, appreciate everybody's pain points, see the story through everybody's eyes, there are 2 things will develop: respect and empathy. Now, what does respect mean? Next slide. You can see that learning and understanding drive us up. Nigeria today is at the level of basic tolerance. You know when you tolerate somebody? If your husband says to you, "I'm just tolerating you," will you be happy? Will you be happy? Or if your wife says, "I'm just tolerating you," would you be happy? Is that a positive thing? In Nigeria today, we're just tolerating each other. And for us to begin to climb up, the ideal, the goal is full acceptance, where any Nigerian can represent every Nigerian. In all honesty, I don't think that we'll get there in my lifetime. Don't say never. It's possible, but I don't think we'll get there in my lifetime because the divisions are too great. But we can get to a place where we have respect and empathy for each other. We are aware of our differences, but we have respect and empathy for each other. What does respect mean? Next slide. Next slide. I like to use these 2 stories to illustrate respect because I didn't create them. And they were written in books long before I started studying the subject. Alexander Madiebo, commander of the Biafran army, he wrote one of the very few military accounts of the Biafran war. Not an account from a civilian or humanitarian perspective, but a purely military perspective. And if you read his book, which every Igbo person should read, he gives accounts of battles that happened in the Nigerian Civil War. Very detailed accounts. And one of the battles he talks about is the Battle of Owerri. Because the Nigerians captured Owerri, and then the Biafrans summoned inhuman, I don't know where they got the resources and courage, and pushed the Nigerians out of Owerri before the Nigerians came back and captured it and eventually won the war. But when the Biafrans pushed Nigeria out of Owerri, Madiebo noted that when the Nigerian army was retreating, you know that as an army, you cannot just drop your gun and start running. You have to retreat in a disciplined way. So there will be somebody there that is still fighting while the rest of you are pulling back. So Madiebo was talking about the Nigerian unit that was fighting so that the rest of the Nigerian army could pull out. And he said the commander of that unit, in his own words, was a soldier. That is respect. When you look at your enemy, and in spite of everything you feel, you recognize a positive quality in that person. Alabi Isama was with the 3rd Marine Commando. The ones that invaded Biafra from Calabar into Port Harcourt. They were 100% sure that the moment they capture Port Harcourt, Biafra will collapse. And he said he was shocked that they could not imagine the mettle of the Biafran soldiers, that even after Port Harcourt fell in 1967 or 68, I think it was 68, that the Biafrans kept on fighting. He said that those were men. That's what respect is. It doesn't mean that I like you, but it means that I recognize that you have positive, outstanding qualities. And you know what? Respect does not stop us from fighting. What it changes is how we fight. Because when you respect your enemy, there are some things you will not do to him. I used to do sports growing up, taekwondo. If you are fighting somebody and the person falls on the ground, you go to your corner and wait for them to stand up. That's respect. But when you don't respect somebody, when they fall on the ground, you will spit on them, you will match their nose, you will kick them. That's what we are doing in Nigeria today. So I'm not asking us to be one Nigeria, I'm just asking us to develop respect. And you cannot develop respect until you begin to learn. Number 2 thing that learning and understanding history comprehensively will give you is, next slide, empathy. The Biafran accounts of 1966 starts with the pogrom that broke out on the 29th of May, 1966. That's where the Igbo account of 1966 starts. What they did to us, which was a vile thing, targeting us for our ethnicity alone. Men, women, and children who did not know who Nzogwu was. They didn't know who Ifeajuna was. You come round a corner and there's a mob. Sticks and stones, people that were formerly your neighbors, just because you are Igbo or look Igbo. They beat you to death. We are still suffering the trauma. My uncle, my father's brother, was a successful businessman in Kano when the pogrom broke out. He escaped with his life. Until the day he died, he was close to 80 when he died. He never set foot in the north. We are still living with that trauma. But there are other versions of 1966, and they don't start on the 29th of May. There are versions of 1966 that start on the 15th of January. When the brigade commander of the Nigerian forces in the south, Zachariah Memalari, heard gunshots at his gate and was alerted that a coup was in progress, and so quickly ran out of his house, jumped over the fence, and escaped the coup plotters, escaped with his life, hiding in the bushes, finding his way back to the barracks. And then suddenly, he saw a car driving past, and he recognized the car. He was hiding. Memalari was hiding. He saw a car driving past. He recognized the car. The car belonged to his 2IC, his second in command. Somebody that he trusted with his life. The man was hiding safe. And he stepped out of the bush and flagged this car down, believing that he had been saved. And Emmanuel Ifeajuna, May Mallory's 2IC, stepped out of that car. Do you remember things fall apart? When they told Okonkwo, that boy calls you father. Do not have a hand in his death. Ifeajuna stepped out of the car. A man who trusted him, who flagged him down for safety. He stepped out of his car and he shot him. There are multiple accounts of 1966, and empathy is to understand why it hurts the other side. It will not make your own pain less. It will just help you understand. And when you understand your enemy, the way you fight, the way you quarrel, everything changes. These are the kinds of things that we need to be teaching our children from primary school, so that everybody understands that tribalism is a raging fire. You cannot control it. Today you are riding this tiger, tomorrow you will end up in its belly. I'm going to stop here because I'll get carried away and there are other things to be said.